But I'm going to talk to you about how to review your social media activities and strategy and see what's successful. So, the first thing you want to do, and I've got my notes here because I want to make sure I cover it all. But the first thing you want to start off with is looking at your target audience. So, have you identified who your target audience is? Have you uh, looked at specifics as to what they're doing? And so the first thing you need to do is look at uh, the customer profile that you've created. Now, this doesn't have to be like a super complicated or complex sort of profile. It doesn't have to be, this exact thing about exactly how old they are and um, where they live. Like those things are definitely important. But especially if you're just getting started out, you want to have just a general idea of what those who those people are, right? So maybe yeah, you have some age ranges, you have um, things about some of the struggles, things that the questions that they're kind of asking, right? And that goes back to your brainstorming and research activities. So that way you can create content that is helping them and is beneficial to them. So the first thing when you're looking at your customer profile is you want to ask, is this information still accurate? Right? Is it still relevant to my audience today and my customer? Um, then you want to ask yourself, what have you learned about your target audience? So, as you've been promoting your content, as you've been doing your market research, which is essential to do every single day, asking yourself, what have I learned about my target audience, and how is that, um, how is that going to play into the types of things that I may need to adjust or pivot on when it comes to social media? And then it goes into, do you need to adjust any information? So based on what you learn about it still being relevant and what you've learned about your audience as you've continued to do and iterate on your research, is there any information that you need to adjust? Is there stuff that's not relevant, or is there new stuff that's come up that you want to share? And then has another target audience emerged? So those could be, maybe your target audience was a specific entrepreneur, or maybe um, you know it could be something where maybe that specific audience hasn't been really on your radar, but you're finding, right? And I've had some students and some customers deal with this where they have a target profile, they have a target audience. Let's say, for example, life coaching, right? Where they're intended to coach a specific niche, a specific type of person who's in a specific part of their life. But then they start to see this new group that's substantially different from their original target audience, that is engaging with their content, that is inquiring about their services, that is starting to become their customer. And so if that becomes the case, then you have to try to understand, is that still relevant to is it something that's relevant to me? Is it something that I feel it makes business sense for me to pursue? And if so, then developing that profile and then identifying, how do I what are some of the things and content and sorts of information that I need to share with this new target audience to engage them and grow. Next is around social media goals. So you always should have a goal of what you're wanting to accomplish when you go on social media, because it's very easy to get lost and there's a lot going on there. And if you don't know the purpose of social media, you are going to get less and less benefit from it. So once you've identified those goals, the first thing you need to ask is, are you meeting your goals? Is what you're working on making sense to your business? Is social media helping you? Next is, do you need to adjust your goals or your strategy? So you have these goals, you have a strategy for how you're going to accomplish them. Now that you've been out there and they've kind of been playing out, are those goals still relevant? Are they still helping you with your business today? And then, if so, then keep those. But if not, refine them, change them up, figure out new goals. And then, do you need to change your strategy? So do you need to adjust how you're going to meet those goals? So if you're posting a specific type of content and you're finding that a lot of people aren't very engaged with that, then maybe you need to kind of pivot to a different type of content or a different topic, or something that helps. And so really looking at the measures for how your content's performing and what's most engaging. And so this goes to the point of, what can you do differently to achieve those goals? And then, do you need new goals? So are there new things that you need to create? And then next is around content analysis. So this is where you start to really look at all of the content that you're doing, that you're sharing, and asking yourself, what types of posts have been the most popular with your audience? So looking at number of likes, engagement, shares, saves, comments. What are the types of posts can you identify themes from that are going to capture um, that are capturing the engagement of your audience and are most engaging? What subject matter has been the most popular with your audience? So, are there specific topics that you're sharing that you're finding more people are engaged with? So, for me, I find digital marketing tips and tricks are always something that is super exciting, entertaining, and engaging to my audience. But I'm also finding that when I share things around statistics for minority entrepreneurs and what those statistics are like, and how I and my audience and the people that I'm sharing this with can help minority entrepreneurs to be more successful and to take their brands and their businesses to the next level. Like, that has given I've seen a lot of engagement and a lot of discussion around that. And so that's something, for example, that I'm going to continue sharing, is around, uh, you know, the current state of entrepreneurship, especially as it applies to minority entrepreneurs. And then, do you need to rethink your content mix? So that kind of goes off of the subject matter, right? If you're seeing things that are successful, keep doing those. But if you see things that are not as successful, think about, how might you refine or update those, or should I just not post that content anymore? And again, based on your market research that you're doing, identifying, okay, what sorts of content is still, that I might want to start incorporating. Next is content curation. And so content curation is something that uh, helps to sort of increase engagement and to target other people's audiences. Um, and it also helps with content publishing, because content curation is really around sharing other people's content, other people's posts, other people's videos, to your own platforms, and crediting them and sharing with their audience. Um, so content curation is critical and is something that you want to look at. And if you have more questions on that, feel free to drop some comments in, uh, down below in the comments area, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram. Add those comments so that way I know what sorts of content you want to hear about in the next one. So the reason why I ask that is because there's a lot of questions around content curation. Um, but once you start curating content, you then need to ask yourself, which sites or accounts have generated the most engagement and which ones didn't. So that way you can again focus and refine your efforts on curating content from the areas that are working, the ones that aren't. Can you stop sharing content from a specific source, or find new sources? So again, if the stuff that's working, stick to that. If the stuff that's not working as much, reconsider, and then maybe go do some more research and identify some other sources that you can curate content from and start testing those out. Marketing, especially digital marketing, is really all about testing out your approaches. It's all a testing game. It's all sort of research and seeing the outcomes. It's kind of like you are I mean, you're like a social scientist, right? You are uh, figuring out what your your society, your group of people are interested in, what resonates with them, and sharing that content with them and adjusting your products, services, and offers to meet those needs, um, and then identifying and then shifting, right? So if you have a hypothesis on, I think this sort of content is going to be best to curate for my audience, and then you find it doesn't, you're not a failure. The only thing is that your hypothesis was proven false, and so then now let me take that and move forward and come up with a better hypothesis based on what I know. And so a little bit of science there. Kind of think about yourself as maybe a social scientist. Call yourself that, if that's something that helps. And then last but certainly not least is looking at your engagement goals. So did you meet your goals for engagement? So if you said, I want to increase my engagement by 10%, look at your research, that's over 90 days. Look at look at those numbers over time, right? Even like if you haven't hit the 90 days and you're maybe 30 days in, see, am I hitting that? Am I getting the 10%? If not, then do you need to adjust your goals, your strategy, or your tactics? Or do you need new goals? So let's say you say, I want to increase my following by 1,000 people within a month. Is that feasible? Yes, to an extent. Is that Does that goal make sense for you? Is that something like what is the outcome of that goal that you're expecting to acquire? So do you need new goals and do you need to develop new ones? And then were your proactive engagement strategies successful? So this is something that I'm working on, right? Is going, you can post all this content and share, but part of being on social media is socializing, is networking. It's kind of like you're at a real life networking event, right? You don't expect people to just you to share something and people to just come and talk to you. Like you've got to go out there and network and identify uh, the areas of social media that are valuable and that and you have to contribute, right? So looking at that as your engagement of not only people engaging with your content, but the activities of you engaging with others' content, and seeing, do I need to adjust there? All right, so those are the steps um, to reviewing your social media efforts.